The last few weeks we've had several announcements from Disney that we were thinking we'd like to discuss. This is episode 14. I'm Sariah.
I'm Aurora.
And together we're just your average Disney travelers. Now, we didn't set out for this podcast. We're not really intending to be always on top of all the latest information and everything, and we won't always be sharing what any little announcement or changes going on constantly in the parks or at the destinations. But every now and then, it's good to talk about what's going on. And recently, in the last few weeks, there have been a lot of announcements that have made us talk, I guess, think, wonder. Some have been exciting and some are, we haven't decided how much we like them yet. And so anyway, so we're going to talk about those in this episode. And again, we won't cover everything, but just some of the things that we've been interested in. Yeah. What do you want to start with?
The enhancements to the Jungle Cruise.
And this is at both Disney World and Disneyland.
It will be the exact same ride at both places.
And well, okay, how are you feeling about it?
From what I've heard and read, I'm very excited for it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think it'll be what it looks like. And they don't have a lot of details on this yet. They've shared some.
Yeah.
But not not specifics. Right?
Yeah.
Unless you saw something I didn't. And so it makes me really curious. I'm very interested in seeing how it ends up.
All the scenes will be linked together. There will be a story for all the characters and the skippers.
Yeah. What's cool is it's not changing, it's not taking away or changing what the original ride was.
No, it's not being reimagined.
Right, not reimagined, they're adding to this ride. And that's what I think is going to be neat because we love Jungle Cruise. Okay, I love Jungle Cruise.
I love Jungle Cruise.
You love it? Okay. Yeah. And I sometimes I don't know if you like it because we're always going on it, if that's why you're going on it, or you do like it.
We always go on it because I love it.
Okay, good. Well, I know that like I said, sometimes it's hard to know if you're going along with what we always choose or if you really want to do it yourself.
I've said multiple times that I've loved that ride.
It's also one of Rory's sister's favorite rides as well. So
she should be a skipper.
She wanted to be a skipper, I think. For a while, she talked about it.
She still should be a skipper.
Well, maybe if their lives take them someplace close to a Disney park, maybe. But she's married now, so there's a whole lot of other. Yeah, Florida. Yeah, move to Florida. Then we'll come visit. Go to Disney World.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Jungle Cruise is a really popular one for us. We like it, and we love the corny jokes. Cheesy jokes, love them. I laugh every time, no matter how many times I've heard the same lines over and over again because it's just fun.
Yes.
And I always love it when there's a skipper that has a new one that I haven't heard before, and I usually will tell them afterwards, oh my goodness, you had some great new ones I hadn't heard, you made me laugh. So that's fun. But anyways, so I'm excited. I think that this will add a whole lot to the attraction, and I think that we'll find there's new jokes. Yeah. I can't wait to hear them. Did it say, I don't remember if it said when this is coming out.
No, there's no date.
Okay. So that we'll have to wait and see, I guess. All right, another fun, exciting one is, and this is such a good sign, I think, Disney also has come out letting us know that at Animal Kingdom in Walt Disney World, the Festival of the Lion King show is coming back. Not until summer, but it's coming back this year. It will be a modified version of the previous show. Do you like this one too?
I think so.
Do you remember it very well? I know you've seen it a couple times, but you may not remember.
I'm pretty sure if I'm thinking of the right one, then yeah.
I love it. It's one at Disney World. It's probably my favorite of the daytime shows. I've always liked it. And I'm curious again to see what modifications. The modifications are due to the pandemic and the procedures that they have to go through. So I don't know if they're going to be permanent changes or if it's just until other limitations are lifted and they're able to go back to the original format. I don't know. And we don't know what those changes will be. I suspect one of my favorite parts of the Lion King Festival of the Lion King might be part that's either changed or even removed temporarily. The monkeys, the acrobatic.
Yeah, okay, I was thinking the right one.
Good.
I was thinking that she was like, that's also...
Because I think that a lot of the performers and performances that they do don't have to have physical contact. They can be spaced a little bit out. But those ones, they're literally, swinging with each other. And so they I don't know if they'd be able to do that and meet the new requirements for that, but we'll see. Anyways, but it's exciting. This is the first show that I've heard of that has been announced that is coming back, and this is really promising. When everything shut down and all the pandemic affected everything, one of the things that we saw was really sad is all of these stage shows and performances that they have at the parks, and particularly over at Walt Disney World, since they are open, those were all still just kind of stopped, and it's because and the performers, it's for their safety, and it's sad because these are their jobs, and so it's exciting to see that coming back and for us to be able to enjoy it as guests, those that are gonna be able to be there to see it. And so I think that's a really promising sign. Hopefully we'll hear about more shows coming back soon too. So, but that was exciting. All right, what's another thing we want to talk about? Those were the things that we were for sure happy about. Yeah, the rest of it could be debatable. Maybe there's some pros and cons. So, and this is why we originally started talking about maybe doing this episode, was because what we're going to discuss coming up here next.
So, Disneyland annual pass holders being discontinued.
Yep, up, and now you just heard my laundry is ready to be rotated. That's what happens when I do these and I don't even think about stuff like that. Okay, so discontinuing the annual pass holder program over at Disneyland.
Yeah.
That hurt when I read it.
Because we're also planning to actually sign up for that.
We were hoping to become annual pass holders now that we live closer to Disneyland. That was kind of one of the pros of moving to the desert, was that we were going to be close enough that we would actually go often enough that it would actually warrant being annual pass holders.
It's better not make it so we don't go as often.
Well, I think there's a matter of that, but also money, budgeting. Mm-hmm. But we were already going to be kind of right on the edge. And to be honest, as I thought about it, this made our decision a little easier, because I was kind of right on the edge of, is it really worth it, or would we not really, is it not super beneficial? Should we just not get the annual pass? And we kind of actually decided that would be a year-to-year decision, because some years we might be able to go like another time more than normal years, or whatever that will end up being. We don't even know, because we haven't had a normal year since we've lived here. But anyhow, so this kind of made that decision easier. But it still makes me sad that the program in general is gone away. Now, they did say
that, isn't there still a thing for kind of I don't remember how it was.
I don't think there's something currently.
But you still can get discounts.
Well, what they're saying is that they will come out with some sort of program that has rewards for members. And it's not going to be the annual pass holder program, but it'll be something, I'm not going to say similar, because I don't know if it'll be similar or not. But it will have some benefit to frequent visitors. And we don't know what that'll be. We don't know if that's going to be something that applies to us. We won't know until they come out with more information. So, it's good or bad. I think I can understand why they're having to do that. Any given day when Disneyland's open, the majority of the guests are annual pass holders. They're locals that, it was a nice day, they had some free time, they went to the parks. And so in a situation like right now, when they're going to have to, whenever they do open, they're going to have very limited capacity.
Yeah.
Having so many of their visitors be annual pass holders, where it's not like they're selling tickets, and stop selling tickets when they're out of space. Annual pass holders, the idea is they're supposed to be able to just go whenever they want, and they're not going to be able to do that once things get open. And I imagine that they're probably going to have to do like Disney World anyways, where you have a reservation system every day. But even still, it's just, there's a lot of things, I think. And I think Also, we have to remember that Disney is still a business and a company, and they've taken a huge hit financially. They're okay because they're such a big company, and they're able to, they have so many different ways of having their earnings and things, and so they're surviving it, but it's still a huge hit, and we've seen that, layoffs and closures and things that have affected the business because of all of this financial hit that they're taking with the pandemic. And so I can kind of see where, it's in their best interest to change that program to where it'd be a little bit safer for the company, which doesn't usually mean, it's in our best interest financially, but it should still, they'll probably have something. We just don't know what. So this is a pro and con. Really, I feel like it's mostly a con, but on the end, but for us, realistically, I don't know if it's going to change a whole lot. I think we'll probably still go when we can go, and if it works out that we're able to have some sort of a membership rewards, then that's great. And if not, that's okay.
Yeah.
We'll be all right. Yeah. I feel bad for the locals that are used to having them. And like I said, hopefully that they'll have some sort of program that will be beneficial to them too.
Yeah.
All right. So another thing that was announced is for over at Walt Disney World, and that's the Disney's Magical Express is going to be doing away with starting next year. So people who are traveling to Walt Disney World this year can still take advantage of that service, but after this year, it will no longer be available. And if you're not familiar with Disney's Magical Express, it is basically free transportation from the Orlando airport to the Walt Disney World Resort. And it's not just to the resort, but like literally to your hotel, whichever Disney World Resort hotel you're staying at. And it was kind of twofold because it did the transportation on a bus for you. So you'd get off of the plane and you'd go down to the Magical Express deep transportation section, and you'd get on the bus that was going to your resort, and they would take you to your resort. But also this service, you could choose to allow them to take your luggage for you, so you never even had to go to baggage claim. They would collect the baggage as it came off the airplane, and then they would send it to your resort hotel too, which is super convenient.
Yeah.
So nice not to have to even think about that. There were still some cons, just like everything. The cons with the luggage was it usually took 3 hours, so you were usually at the resort before the luggage was. And sometimes it even took longer. And if you were coming in on a late flight, that meant sometimes like at midnight, your luggage was arriving at your door and you were asleep or your kids were asleep or whatever. But the other thing was even just the bus part of it, the transportation for the people, it also is a little slow. Yeah, it would be packed. So sometimes you time it just right and you'd arrive and you were among the last group getting on the bus, and then you didn't have to wait long, and then you're on your way to the resort. Yeah. But sometimes you were one of the first ones on an empty bus, and then you sat on an empty bus for like 45 minutes while more flights came in and they were filling that bus before you headed out. And so, that could take some time too. And then in addition to that, it would drop off. Usually each bus had 4 or 5 resort hotels that they would go through. And so if you were the first one, yay, great, you were quick to your resort. But if you were the last one, you had to circle around and wait till it got to your resort. So again,
the seats were really comfy.
Yes, so they were really nice, like coach charter buses. They also, it was fun because they had like a Disney video playing usually. Yeah. So it was comfortable and it was pleasant, and it was like immediately getting off the airplane and getting out of the airport, you were immediately in the Disney bubble. You were taken care of by Disney. You were feeling that service. It was really fun. And I think that's what we liked about it the most. I mean, immediately you were there. And so that I'll miss. Plus, it was free. And so, that's always a plus. I think that it was they had this going on for, I think, about 15, 16 years or so. So this hasn't been around forever, but it's been around long enough that a lot of people have come accustomed to it. And so we don't know what will be taking its place. They named, Uber and Lyft and, these other transportation options that people have available to them now that they usually, a lot of people, even if they were staying at resort hotels and could have the free transportation, still chose to use these personal drivers because they were quicker. It would just be for them, and so really fast getting to their resort. That's something you had to pay for if you're going to use it. They listed that there will still be shared shuttles and taxis, and so this Disney's Magical Express has been kind of a contract. It's Disney working. Disney didn't actually run it. They contracted it out to a transportation company in the Orlando area called Mears. And Mears will still be offering that same service. It's just that now you'll have to pay for it. And it won't include the luggage transfer. And so you'll have to go grab your bags and then take them with you and stuff. There's always the option of renting a car. And I think maybe they're going to see more people doing that option now if they don't have the free transportation. The drawbacks to that for the guest is that obviously you're paying now for a car rental. Also at Disney, you have to pay for your parking. Even if you're staying at a Disney Resort hotel, that's kind of newer in the last few years. So it's going to add a lot of expense, but it does give you freedom. You can go to the grocery store on the way in instead of having all of your food purchased at the Disney parks or in the hotels. You can leave property and go spend a day at a different destination very easily. And so it's, it gives you more freedom and flexibility, but it does cost more. So there's going to be pros and cons. I'm still curious to see if Disney comes out with something to replace it, not completely, but at least in part, even if it's just the luggage portion, just for that convenience. There is that, I don't know, did you read about the train?
I saw it, but I didn't see much of it.
There's a train that's going to have a line from MCO, which is Orlando Airport, to Disney World. It'll be just at Disney Springs, which is their downtown Disney type area, but it'll only have that one stop. And on the one hand, it could be a good solution for some people, but on the other hand, if you have your luggage from there, you have to get you and your luggage to whatever hotel you're staying at. And so, I don't know. So I'm not sure if that's really going to be a practical option for most families that way either. So this is another one of those, I don't know how I feel about this yet. I'm a little sad, bummed, but I think it's just a matter of having to budget for that transportation now and figure out which option is going to work best for you for your trip. Yeah. What's the last one we wanted to mention?
The extra magic hours
at Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what about it?
They're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. And they haven't been anyways because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But they've announced that they're not coming back. So what were the extra magic hours? Do you remember how that program worked?
So those who were staying at the resort were able to, on certain days, be able to stay later and earlier. So
every day, at least one Disney park at Walt Disney World would have extra magic hours.
Yeah.
And the extra magic hours could be 1 hour early, so open an hour early for just resort guests, people staying at Disney World resort hotels. Or it might be staying open later instead, so 2 or 3 hours after normal closing, it would remain open for those Disney Resort hotel guests.
You explained it a lot better than I did.
Well, I used to be a travel agent and had to explain this a lot.
Fair enough.
But anyhow, so that also came with pros and cons. We utilized that quite a bit. We liked that. Part of it's because I don't mind waking up early, and
I hate waking up early. I guess that's a pro for me.
Yeah.
You don't have an excuse to wake me up early.
So
to wait an hour in line before the park opens.
But was it worth it to walk onto Flight of Passage without any wait?
Yeah, but that's only for one park, not for every park.
Anyhow, well, most parks we didn't wake up as early. That was the earliest we did. But anyhow, so we have used this quite a bit. We didn't use it every day of all of our trips. Sometimes it worked out in our favor and sometimes it didn't. The cons to this were that typically the parks that had the extra magic hours scheduled and available, typically those ended up being busier. Those parks were busier that day. So if you weren't really taking advantage of the extra magic hour and you were going to that park, you'd find it busier than it normally would have been. And even if so one of the ways some people got around this was they would go for the extra magic hour and then they'd hop over, at 10 or 11 to another park, say like Epcot, where World Showcase didn't open till 11 anyway. So you go into your extra magic hour over at Hollywood Studios or at Magic Kingdom or whatever and spend those first early morning hours there, and then hop over to a park that was going to be slower because it didn't have extra magic hours and didn't have that draw of extra people. And so you could work around it and still use it to your benefit, but it did mean a little bit more planning, a little bit more movement, meant hopping, and things like that. So some people, though, actively avoided extra magic hours because of that extra crowd increase that they would see in the parks that day. And so for some people, they never took advantage of it anyways. Now, did you read about what they were going to do instead?
It wasn't every park and it just opened up 30 minutes before.
Yeah. So they I don't think they're not calling it extra magic hours anymore. But they are going to have an earlier.
It's only half an hour, like
so
extra half an hour.
Extra magic half hour. No. So now instead of having one park open, having it either open early or staying open late, every park, all 4 of the Disney World parks, will be opening 1/2 hour early for the Disney Resort guests. So it's better than nothing, and it does spread out that whole, which park is open early or later has the higher increase, because they're all now. It spreads that out a little bit easier. But also, I don't know, I think it's enough to get in and get, like, to be first in line at something. Yeah. But it's not necessarily, man, sometimes if you go that first hour, you could do 3-4 rides easily before the park even opened, depending on where you're at and which rides you're riding. And that you won't be able to do in half hour. Maybe you could go and ride one really quick and then get in line and be not the first in line, but a good short wait as the park's opening.
But then, of course, without the magic hours, there probably wouldn't be like the huge, like, busy, like
that's
you're just
true.
talking
maybe
about.
You're right. Maybe it won't be as much.
A bit more evened out.
Yeah, maybe not as much competition, anyways.
Yeah. Still probably lots of lines, but probably not as much.
Yeah, and one of the things that we don't know how it'll factor in is, for the last while we've seen it's an unspoken policy. It's not official, but it's fairly consistent pretty much all the time now. As they're preparing to open a park, they will often open the turnstiles before they're supposed to. So you might see this a half hour early. You might even see it up to an hour early, depending on what the demand is. Maybe not right now during pandemics, but before the pandemic, they would open up and let people into at least portions of the park. We see this over at Disneyland, or we used to see this at Disneyland a lot, where they would let you at least up to the hub. And this gave you an opportunity to kind of position yourself and be ready. You're already halfway to or almost to the attraction you want to get to, so that you could get there really fast once they drop. They call it rope drop. Once they drop that rope. At Walt Disney World, we took advantage of this when we did Flight of Passage. And we literally, they kept kind of moving us further and further into the park, to the point where we were not just like in line, but literally on the ride. Well, I didn't go on it because it would make me sick, but the rest of my group was on the ride when the park was opening. And so, and this is just, like I said, this is what they've been kind of doing lately. It's not official. It's not like, you can't exactly guarantee that it'll do it, but they were doing it so consistently. We don't know if they'll have that in addition to this or not. So maybe a half hour before, so it'd be an hour before opening. Maybe they'll start letting people, but I don't know. And so there's a lot that we're still not sure of exactly how that'll be implemented. And I think they said, did they say when that was going to start? When the changes? I don't remember if they did or didn't.
I don't remember. I remember seeing something about like 2022, but I think that was for the Express, because you're saying
Magical Express for sure is done.
Yeah.
In 22. It's only for this year. So that's people who are already booked
for this year. So I don't.
Yeah. Anyways, so those are some changes we're going to be seeing coming to the park. Some are exciting. We're looking forward to them. Some of them we're a little bit nervous about, or very curious to learn more about as they announce. And maybe when we learn more, we'll follow up and do another episode that talks about it. Like I said, that's not really our intent to have this podcast be, I was a travel agent for 9 years, I think. And so that was my job, that I had to be on top of everything. And
you're burnt out on being on top of everything.
I kind of enjoyed the last year or so of not having to know everything all the time. And so I haven't really made it my goal. But when something catches my eye and makes me, I have questions and I'm curious and concerned or anxious about, then I have been. So sometimes we'll share and sometimes we won't. This is more just a for fun podcast, and this was just an episode that's been on our minds and we wanted to share it. And maybe you've been hearing those rumors or hearing those stories and we're curious about them too. But I think that in all of the, even those last three that are kind of, I don't want to say controversial, maybe they are to some, but that are
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
The first two we talked about, those are just good. I don't see any negatives to that. But those last three, you know, maybe just talking it out is helpful. I think there definitely are some pros and some cons, and I think that there'll be ways to make it work well, to benefit from it, even if it's not benefiting as much as the original or what it's replacing was benefiting us. It'll still, I don't think it'd be all bad. It's not going to all be bad.
No.
Disney is pretty good at making sure that they try to take care of their guests. I'm hoping that we see that, especially as things start going back to normal, because right now it feels like, especially at Walt Disney World, that a lot of things are being taken away from their guests. And I think that they're mindful of that. I hope they are, because there's a lot that we don't know about yet. There's things that we're expecting completely to come back, fast passes, dining plans, and we don't necessarily expect them to be the same as they were before. So I'm really hopeful that the ways that they make it work make it so that the guests staying at the hotels are really benefiting, because they're losing some of those benefits right now, not having the extra magic hours and the Magical Express. But that's just how things go. Things change. They never stay the same, and it doesn't all have to be bad. So anyways, yeah, anything else we want to add?
Not on top of my head.
Would you still be interested in doing Disney World trips without Magical Express and extra magic hours?
What kind of question is that? Of course I would be.
Of course. Especially since you don't pay for it anyways.
Nope.
So we'd be paying for the extra transportation and you don't care. You're still getting there.
Yep.
Anyways, yeah. No, I think that it'd still be worth it. It's just going to be a little bit more research to figuring out what way works best now.
Yeah.
And who knows? By the time we get there, maybe they'll have announced more. But all right, well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
See you.